Well, I'm on the farm today. It's a beautiful day, and I've had a few videos of my Hesston mower conditioner on the Farmall 350, and then there's some older videos. You can see where I'm running it on my John Deere 5055D, and thought I'd just do a review of this mower conditioner, and I thought I'd do it before I take it off of the Farmall. And I got the hood panels open. The side panels open or off, not because anything's broken. I just wanted to have them out of the way when I started in on this video. This is a Hesston 1110, and they made an 1110 and 1120. This is 7 foot. The 1120 was a 9 foot, and they were Case IH machines that were identical, except they had Case IH decals and paint colors. And in my opinion, this is as good as it ever got for a Haybine. This is a Haybine in a lot of ways New Holland should have been. And that not to take away from the legendary 472 and 488s, fine machines. But in my opinion, the design on this Hesston is superior and simpler at the same time, and I'll show you here in just a little bit. First of all, as I mentioned, this mower, it's a Sickle Mower conditioner, and obviously there's a reel, and the rollers on this mower conditioner are see if you can see them here. They're the bottom roller is steel and the top roll is rubber. And so one thing about a New Holland, and my intent is not to bash New Holland, I hope I'm just stating facts, but the fact of the matter is, I can't say I've ever seen a Hesston rubber roll delaminate, but I've looked at a lot of New Holland Haybines back from when I was looking to buy one, that chunks of rubber were missing, and once the rubber starts peeling off the rollers, hay has a tendency to wrap around the rollers. And if you want sticker shock, price a replacement roller for a disc vine or a Haybine that's has rubber on it. These rollers crimp, they don't crush. They're very, very effective. When the hay comes off of the cutter, you can look at this pan right here, and the hay is literally laying on it straight up like that, and that's how it feeds into these rollers, and so it crimps them very effectively. And one thing I've never understood about a disc mower conditioner is when the hay's cut, I don't know how it feeds butt first into the rollers for conditioning the way it does on a Haybine. And it just seems to me that a lot of times, I mean, I've seen some videos on the hay flying off of the cutter bar into those rollers, and it just looks like it's turbulence. On this one, and on, I assume New Holland too, that hay just seems to go straight up like that. And one of the ways I know that it's not clogged from the tractor seat is not looking out behind it to see a piece of grass standing up. Is if I see an interruption in what looks like a comb of hay going up like that all the way across. As long as I see that, I know hay is flowing right on back into those rollers. And so the the conditioning, the way it crimps the hay, the stem, is very effective. The dry down is excellent. So the reels here, they just have some simple bearings right here on the track, and easy enough to replace. And these are easy to replace. I've replaced a few of them over the years. Actually, I've replaced the ones that were missing from when I bought it. I bought it used. And the push bar, it's just a great machine, and it's heavy and it's well built. on the back side of it, you can move this deflector right here. Right now I've got it set up so that the hay comes straight off, and in doing so the sides kind of gather it into a windrow, but you can have it where it pushes it straight down, and it'll pretty much lay the hay out flat across the width of the cutter bar. One thing about this mower is you look at New Holland, and it seems to me as that the weather, just the rain falling down, can get to the rollers. On the Hesston, the rollers are tucked in. They're tucked in under this sheet metal. The rain really doesn't get on the rollers unless, I guess, the wind is blowing. And so even if you park them outside, they're kind of saved from the elements. Now, where you get into the big difference on the New Holland and the Hesston is in the drive system for the cutter bar. So power comes off the PTO shaft. There's a slip clutch right here under this hood. Goes into this gearbox. There's a shaft that comes out here that drives a set of chains that drives the rollers. And then there's twin belts that come down here. And they come across and they drive this eccentric wheel, if you will. If you will. So, and what that does, this whole thing right here is called a half sway bar. And because it's offset, the way it turns, it causes this sway bar to go back and forth like that. And that's what drives the cutter back and forth into the machine and then back out. And it's very effective in the way it works, and it's incredibly simple. And so if you need to rebuild this half sway bar, it's just a matter of screws and linkages right here where you can get your wrenches on. And I know that because I rebuilt it when I bought it, and it didn't cost a lot of money. It was all right out here where you can get your hands on it. And I know when I bought this thing, I tend to study stuff like an exam, and I don't know why. Maybe I'd be better off watching a baseball game or something, but or reading a fiction or a non-fiction novel. But that's just what I do with a lot of my spare time when I can't do anything else. Maybe it's completely dark outside or raining, and then when I find what I want and I buy it, it's like I'm like a impulse buyer, except I know exactly what I want. And I had read all about this half sway bar and the maintenance on it, or what you had to do to make it right. And so when these linkages, when all this stuff gets wore, what happens is it clatters. It sounds like a machine gun going off. And the guy that was selling this thing, I think he was selling it for somebody else. They had a price on it, and I'd talked him down a little bit. And anyway, he was being kind of cooperative and stubborn at the same time. And I said, well, I think he just wanted me to hook it to the truck and go. And I said, I'm not paying this much money, and I'm not going to hear it run. So he backed the tractor up and fired it up, and it sounded like a machine gun going off. I mean, this was really loud. But I knew what the problem was, and I told him, I said, that thing makes a lot of racket. I might use this thing and have it fly apart on the first round on the field, or, so I talked some of that kind of gibberish to him, and he knew. I think he knew, and I said, I can't. This thing's a project. I said, I have to spend some money to make this thing go. So he called a buddy who I think he was selling it for, and after about 15 minutes he came back, and the price that I had talked about that I offered him, I had cash money, and he took it. And so I felt like probably he got a good price, and I feel like I got a good price. I think we both probably got what we needed, because I don't think they thought it was repairable without tearing up a gearbox. But this doesn't have it. There's no wobble box on a Hesston like a New Holland. And to get to everything on the Hesston that's right here, you don't have to go in and pull things out to get to other things. You know, if you've worked on New Holland or seen some of the videos, while the disc binds work and they are legendary, pulling wobble boxes and sometimes things like that can be, I don't know, I just think this was a better idea. So when you come off of this gearbox right here, there's some chains that drive the rollers, and then you can adjust these to set the timing so that the rollers mesh, and then you set the gap on the rollers here, and I think on the other side as well. And the way you check the gap on the rollers, and I think this is per the manual, is you take tin foil, you feed it through the rollers, and when it comes out on the other side, you measure the thickness with the calipers. You do that several times until you have it dialed in. So over here on this side, and I can't recall on New Holland how difficult it is to change the belt on the reel. For some reason I'm thinking it's a little more difficult than this, where you just take the spring loose and then this belt just falls right off. I've changed this belt, and it's a gravy. It's just a gravy job. Now, if you get this thing jammed up, which I've never had, and you need to roll the rollers so it puts the hay out towards the front, they're flats on this bottom roller, and you can put a big crescent wrench on it and roll you roll the hay out from to the front, and I guess potentially freeing up the jam. To set the float, you just take this bracket off right here, and you crank in or out on this bolt, and there's one on either side. There's a pocket right here for an extra cutter bar, and you can adjust the tension on the rollers, not just the gap, but the tension on the rollers. And I've never done it, but I think you just crank that screw right there, and there's some cables, and I guess there's some springs or something in there. I really don't know. I've never had a need to adjust any of that. But on the bottom, they're kind of wore, but there's the skid shoes, and they're easy enough to set up or down or even take off, which I've done. And there's a jack for the tongue that goes right here, and when you're got it hooked to a tractor, they got a place back here for it to hang off of. And it's just a very nice design, very cleverly built, and heavy duty. Gosh, the steel on this thing is really heavy. And this machine's heavy enough that when you got it swung out like this and you're going up a hill, on my John Deere 5055D, before I had weights, it wouldn't bring the front end off the ground, but it sure made it feel like they might bounce up a little bit. So, you know, I put weights on it. But these access doors just pop off. There's some over center hooks that snap in place. And anyway, we still use it a little bit. Requires about 35 horsepower, maybe 40, I don't know. I can't remember from the manual, but the Hesston 1120, which is identical, the only two difference, I say identical and then I'll talk about the differences. The only two differences I know is it's 2 feet wider, and I believe there's an option for a a shoe in the center. There's one on each side on this, to cut higher for the stubble. And it's just been a really good machine, and we still use it. Still has a place on this farm. So that's kind of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. The Hesston 1110 still going strong, knock on wood. We've been using it on the farm all. Like I said, we've had some videos here on it. You've probably already seen them. If you haven't, just go back and look for Farmall and Hesston on our channel. I haven't mastered how to put links in a video. You see all these guys doing stuff like that. We're just kind of a shoot it on the camera and put it on the internet with a hopefully minimal edits, and let it rip and get on with other things. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. The Hesston 1110 and the Farmall 350 on the front of it right now. So we'll talk to you later.